and they were coming off the loss to Ohio State. So they struggled, but other games they've won, like Michigan State, like Akron, they're blowing people out of the water, and we just don't see that from Nebraska. Nebraska hasn't really blown anybody except Wyoming and Fresno State out of the water this year. They put it to Illinois by 15. Other than that, Nebraska hasn't shown a lot. They're not going to get it done in Wisconsin.
Yeah, when I look at Nebraska, and I was telling Bobby Johnson this because we kind of had some type of conversation with Wisconsin, but when I look at Nebraska, they're as much fool's gold as anybody in the top 10 because, like you said, and I've said, if you look at their schedule, they have played nobody. I mean, absolutely nobody. This is their first test, and like I said, we're going to see what they're made of, especially on the road against a battle-tested Wisconsin team.
Well, if you remember Iowa scenario, Nebraska is your Iowa this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Iowa ran into, obviously, a couple games that, not like last year, but, like you said, last year's schedule was just atrocious. And like you said, Nebraska's the same way. I totally agree with that. And Nebraska's new Iowa this year. I got Wisconsin in this game as well. Let's move over to Pac-12. Number 4, Washington. At number 17, Utah. I'll be the first to admit that I haven't watched a single game of either of these two teams. But when I look on paper, obviously Utah is more the battle-tested team. They are at home. Washington has taken care of business, and they've done it well. They've blown.
Isn't that bad? They did pretty good there. So, and what we at Arizona, so they had a struggle on the road at Arizona. Rich Rodriguez obviously down there, and he doesn't have that football team hitting on all cylinders right now, so they still struggle down there. I agree with you. I'm taking Utah at home to pull off the upset. I think Utah should easily be undefeated right now as well, and I think we'll take the Utes to win this game.
Yeah, well, so far we got the same picks. Now let's move over to number 3, Clemson, at number 12, Florida State. This game is interesting because Florida State has had Clemson's number for the most part. Clemson is a great football team, but when I watch Clemson at times, it seems like they sputter, and I feel like if only this was against a really good football team, then they'd probably lose because Clemson does a good job every year of sputtering during games that they're supposed to win, and then they can recover with their depth and their athletes, and coaching takes over. So, but now you're going against Florida State on the road. It's Jimbo Fisher, and Florida State's looking for that big win to bounce themselves back up into the top 10 or whatever happens here. How do you see this shaping out? Because I want to go Clemson, and I know I picked Clemson whenever we were talking about it on Facebook, but I almost want to regret that pick. Like, I almost want to pick Florida matchup.
This is the hardest game to pick this week, and because you look at it, Florida State is not deserving of being the number 2. You lose by 43 points to Louisville. If you're a top 15 team in the country, you don't lose by 43 points. They lost to North Carolina at home, and they beat a bad Miami team by 1 at Miami. So, and I'm not sold on Clemson either because what we see is they turn the ball over all the time. They can't help it. That's just what they do. They turn the ball over. What Clemson does have is a good defensive line, which I think is going to be able to control Florida State. As long as they can get past the sound and it being a road game. And they're 1-11 the last 12 times they played in Tallahassee, Clemson is. So I'm going to take it as the upset because I think Oklahoma offense in the country. West Virginia has already taken down the number 1 passing offense in the country, the number 13 passing offense in the country, and Texas Tech and TCU. Oklahoma State also has the 100th rushing offense in the country. So they're a one-dimensional team, just like Texas Tech, just like TCU, and West Virginia was easily able to dismantle both of those teams. And West Virginia is just playing all sides of the ball right now. I don't see if Central and Pitt can go into Oklahoma State and come within a touchdown, West Virginia is certainly going to be capable of winning that game by a large.
State certainly should be 6-1. We talked about Central Michigan. I've mentioned this also. Should have never happened. Now, Central Michigan should have been on the heels of Oklahoma State. That's boring. They are averaging over 40 points per game, very similar to what Texas Tech was throwing around. And then you look at West Virginia's defense. Now, all the time, too, on the show is if you can give up yards, you can give up plays, but as long as you're not giving up touchdowns, you're going to be very good position at the end of the game. And Mountaineers so far have done that. They're 12th nationally in pass efficiency defense, and here's the big one.